Hey guys, Andy Broom, Vice President of CGC Cards, and you're listening to the Sportscards Strategy Show, and there's no off season.
What's up, everyone? Buckeye Dill here. You're listening to the Sportscards Strategy Show, part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Network. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to stick around for top-notch advice on how to stay up to date with your sports card investment portfolio, because remember, there is no off season.
What's up, everybody? I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com. This is the Sports Card Strategy Show. Don't forget to get a free 30-day trial at NoOffSeason.com today to help you make money flipping sports cards, build your sports card investment portfolio, get unlimited advice from our experts, and take Sports Card School to navigate the hobby. That's NoOffSeason.com. Get your free 30-day trial today. All the data we use on the Sports Card Strategy Show is from MarketMoversApp.com. Use code NOOFFSEASON at MarketMoversApp.com to get 20% off for life after a free 14-day trial. All right, let's get to the Sports Card Strategy.
What is up, everyone? Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to the Sports Card Strategy Show. We've officially made it to May, and with May has come a lot of news in the hobby as of late, Paul. But I do have Paul Hickey alongside me. Paul, how are we doing today?
May 1st, Connor. I'm doing great. I mean, other than the fact that I just realized that in my auctions ending in about 8 hours, my 2022 Prism Monopoly Red Dice Keegan Murray rookie PSA 10 was listed as 2022 Prism Monopoly Red Rice Keegan Murray PSA 10. I'm doing great. Other than that, and I wish eBay would let you go in and actually change the title, especially when there's a typo in it like that. But I'm fixing to make some serious profits on my Ant-Man 2020 Prism Silver PSA 10. So all things considered, I am happy. May is here, and I'm happy to see the NoOffSeason.com fam in the house.
Love it. Yeah, we got a bunch of good stuff to talk about today and dive into. We're going to do a lot of why should we care today, kind of breaking down some of the hobby news as of late. We've got Topps Chrome basketball is on the way. Marvin Harrison Jr. news. Is he declining to sign his NFLPA? What can this mean for his market and his singles? We also have Panini releasing Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese first WNBA cards. And then we're going to round things off there in terms of Whatnot releasing new features for breakers, which is a very interesting, and we're going to be excited to dive into everything going on there. And of course, we'll round off the show with the top 5 cards that you can buy now, graded and flip for profits. Paul, before we dive into things, I'm going to hit on some live chat love. We've got Who's Your Card Guy in the house, Shane Graham and Gabe Davis. Thank you all for being here this morning and already commenting. And remember to drop your L's and W's in the live chat, and we will shout you out at the end of the show. If you want your question answered, you can drop a super chat. That's going to be the best way to get us to kind of drop everything that we have going on and answer your question live on the show. Or the most ideal way is to visit nooffseason.com/ask, which is where you can submit a form for our premium podcast called The Overflow Show, where myself and Paul will then take the time to carve out a valuable answer for you guys, and that airs every Friday. So that's nooffseason.com/ask. If you guys have questions. Of course, if you like the content that we're putting out on a daily and weekly basis, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. It's a fantastic way to support us on that front. Of course, join the Discord at sportscardstrategy.com to participate in the ongoing conversation via the family members, the fam as we call them, as well. And I just wanted to mention, be sure to check out Paul's new addition to NoOffSeason.com, the Sports Card Formula Calculator. This is a fantastic new feature that Paul has designed to help you run your desired purchases through a data-driven formula to analyze if it is truly a good purchase and what kinds of returns you can expect for specific singles. Per usual, Paul, we've got a question of the day for everyone just to kind of get some conversation rolling. The question of the day from my end is, what weekly piece of content that we create provides you specifically with the most value? Paul, I think that me and you are kind of in agreement that the Overflow Show is one of our most valuable pieces of content on a weekly basis. However, we're always looking for feedback from our fantastic audience and family members. So what weekly piece of content that we create provides you the most value? We spend a lot of time harping on creating value for you guys in terms of our audience and premium members, and want to continue to innovate and find ways to increase our output in that regard. So what weekly piece of content is the most valuable? Is it the Sports Card Strategy Show? Is it our premium articles? Is it the Overflow Show? Drop a comment at youtube.com/Paul Hickey or on our pinned post on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy. That's pinned post on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy. All right, Paul, let's go ahead and hop into why should we care. We just got the news from Topps Chrome yesterday that we've got Topps Chrome basketball on the way with a little picture of Victor Wembanyama in an auto and an RC shield included on the photo. I'm going to go ahead and let you take away what you think this is going to mean for the hobby, his card market, and why we should care.
I think that most hobby content creators and most hobbyists look at this announcement and they think, this is freaking cool, right? Wemby is being featured on the first Topps Chrome basketball release for a pro player, NBA player, in, about 20 years. It's been about 20 years since we've had Topps Chrome for pro basketball and pro football. So those are both expected in the next 6 to 12 months. There's very, very little detail in this announcement other than the fact that Topps and Sports Card Investor and Card Collector 2 have all kind of confirmed that, per the Topps industry conference this past week, there will be Topps Chrome basketball and there will be Topps Chrome football. Now, what's interesting to me about this announcement is it does not say whether or not this is a licensed release. And when you look at the photo of the card that Wemby's on in Topps's post here, you don't see Spurs. You see San Antonio. You don't see the front of his jersey. You see the back of his jersey. By the way, it's a great photo because they didn't have to Photoshop it at all. You see the back of his jersey and his name. So you have Victor Wembanyama, who is a Fanatics exclusive player, and you have Fanatics and Topps with the ability to move forward with creating cards under the NFLPA licensing deal that they have, but it's been in litigation for a while as to whether or not Topps can actually move forward with licensed NBA cards until Panini no longer owns the licensing to that, to the NBA or the NFL. So that's been in litigation. It's been very, very confusing. No one's really known exactly who owns what for about the last 12 months. And so what I see is a non-licensed card. I see a non-licensed card, but I see a lot of excitement around it. I already see a lot of excitement in the hobby around this, and I could see, because it's a good photo. It's a good photo choice because Wemby does not have Panini autos. And there are other players that don't have Panini autos either. And we'll probably get into that in a future episode. But you've got CJ Stroud and Bryce Young on the football side of things that don't have Panini autos. So you've got big names that are Fanatics exclusive. And you've got an RC shield. You've got Topps Chrome. This is all the makings of being like the Wemby rookie card, but there's not licensing. And then one other thing that we can't sweep under the rug is that this is like already into 2024. Now, granted, Panini is still releasing Wemby rookie cards, even though his rookie year's over. Panini still is going to release, Optic and some other releases. There might even be some Panini releases that come out after this Topps Chrome release. But I have to say, this is like an absolute side swipe out of nowhere for everyone, including myself, that thought that Wemby's Panini Prism and his Prism Silver and all of the variations and serial numbered versions of his Prism Silver were going to be the rookie cards, because now you've got this competition that we weren't expecting. We knew Optic was going to come out. We knew National Treasures was going to come out. We knew Contenders is going to come out. Like all these releases of Wemby, we knew were still going to come out from Panini, but none of those releases typically totally supersede Prism. My question to the audience is, will this Topps Chrome release supersede Prism? Do you go non-licensed with the possibility of a non-licensed auto, or do you stick to licensed with no autos? aka Prism. And you've got the Don Russ no autograph, which Panini kind of played up because Wemby signed exclusive with Fanatics. So to me, this is a bit of a conundrum. However, there is a sports card strategy play here that I think is the biggest thing that the audience needs to take into consideration. So, we can have the discussion about what's going to be better, Topps Chrome or Prism in the long run. We will never know until the market tells us. But the market, Connor, is telling us things already. The market is telling us that in all grades and raw across Wemby's Prism and his Prism Silver rookies, everything is down considerably. The reason why everything is down considerably, whether you look at raw, PSA 10, PSA 9, SGC 10, the reason why everything is down, other than there's one exception to this, his Prism Silver BGS 9.5 is up $104, and his Prism Silver SGC 10 is even. There's only been one recorded sale in the last 14 days. I'm looking at the last 14 days here because these cards sell a ridiculous amount of times. In the last 14 days, we don't even need to go back further. If we go back further, you'd see an even larger dip, by the way. But in the last 14 days, his Prism base raw has sold 1,500 times in the last 14 days, people. Okay, so that tells you that the pop count is going to continue to rise and get astronomical for these Wemby cards. Now, I've been on the record saying, and the formula says, go buy these cards and grade them at PSA, whether it's a silver, whether it's a raw. The formula says that you're still going to do well, even with the rising pop count, even with the plummeting prices of the PSA 9 and the PSA 10. Why? Because the formula takes into account not only those factors, but gem rate and the cost of the raw card. So as the cost of the raw card goes down, it almost offsets the fact that the cost of the PSA 9 and the PSA 10 are going down because there's a high gem rate. So what the formula is telling us about this Prism is that it is still profitable and will be profitable even with the drop in prices. However, what we now know today that we found out yesterday that we didn't know Monday when we did Monday's show, or last Wednesday when we did last Wednesday's show, is this Topps Chrome release is now coming out in the summer. So what does this remind me of? This reminds me of when Shedeur Sanders' Onyx auto was the card for him. And then we got the announcement that he was going to be in Bowman University 2023 football, and he was going to have first prospect autos. So I knew his Onyx auto was going to become obsolete and plummet in price in lieu of his Bowman Chrome first. And I think, right or wrong, opinion or not, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is there is now going to be a ridiculous amount more supply on the market with this new announcement of the Topps Chrome release, and with more supply comes plummeting prices, because the demand for Wemby, I think, will always be there. But I think now we have a much, much, much shorter runway to flip these Prism cards, Connor. I think the biggest takeaway from this Topps Chrome announcement to me is not, oh, that's cool. That's a cool card. There could be a LeBron Wemby dual auto. I don't care about that. What I care about is, when do I need to offload my Wemby Prisms so that I can maximize my return? And now what my radar is telling me, based on my experience and based on what I know about market factors, is that this runway just went from, let's say, February 2025, or even May or June 2025. Now it's shrinking all the way down to about July or August 2024. Because when the Topps Chrome release hits the market, that's what everyone's going to want. And there's already a ton of supply of the Wemby Prism. And there's going to be even more supply of the Wemby Prism PSA 10 by then. The pop count has already doubled in the last couple of weeks on the PSA 10. What do you think is going to happen in July for Wemby's PSA 10 Prism pop count and the Prism Silver pop count? Will the Prism Silver likely still live on as an investable card? Yes. But will there be another massive, massive period of uncertainty now for Wemby cards because of this Topps Chrome release, aka more supply hitting the market, thus not really sure the demand for the Prism? 100%. So my takeaway from all this, and the reason why I wanted to highlight it first and foremost on today's episode, is because this is not a game changer only for collectors who want this card. This is a massive, massive game changer for investors, the listeners of this show. Because now you've got a massively, massively, massively shorter runway to flip. Now, if you're really thinking about this strategically, what you should be thinking is, let's flip the current Wemby inventory that we've already acquired. So anything you've already bought, Wemby Prism-ish, and sent to PSA, just get it back, stay the course, but flip it, because the formula is telling you can profit in July when you get these cards back. It's May 1st. You should have these cards back earlier than July if you followed the PSA special, or even if you missed the PSA special and you're just waiting on people to send you your Wemby Prism Silvers, your Wemby Prism Raws. Maybe some of your Silvers are at the authenticator, right? Because eBay's got to authenticate the raw cards before they get to you. I get that. What I'm saying is, don't panic. Just stay the course. But don't wait to sell, because you're going to profit if you followed the formula on the raw to grade. So just stay the course, flip in July or sooner if you get them back. And your profit margin was likely going to shrink anyway, but you should still profit probably 20 to 30% just on a flip, on a bulk flip play for this raw to grade on these Prisms and Prism Silvers. So just do that. But then wait until when the Topps Chrome release hits the market. If the Prism prices are down and it's already PSA 10 prices are already down, maybe what we see, Connor, and you bet your butt we're going to run these suckers through the formula after the Topps Chrome release comes out. Because if these Prism Silver PSA 10s continue to go down after the release of this Topps Chrome, because that's where everyone's attention's going to go, that's when you go in and you buy those Wemby Prism Silvers and Prism Base PSA 10s. We just saw Ant-Man's Prism Silver Base PSA 10 and Prism Base PSA 10s are up huge right now. You don't think Wemby at some point in the next 2 years is going to win a first round playoff series? I think Adam Silver, and I'm not saying that this is a conspiracy theory here, but I think Adam Silver, Greg Popovich, and a lot of other powers that be, including superstars who want to play with Wemby, are going to make sure Wemby wins a first round playoff series in the next couple of years. So that's a flag plant. That's a sports card strategy, not just looking at the hobby news and going, oh, great. Yeah, cool card. No, there's a takeaway here. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic breakdown. I had several questions throughout that just immediately got answered, so I thought that was great. I think I loved your point about waiting, seeing that the Prism prices are going to go down due to this new demand from the Topps Chrome Wembies that come out, and then using that point to kind of pounce on a discounted valuation to make money flipping there. So I love where your head's at. For maybe anyone that's listening to us that could be, sort of a newcomer to our content, let's kind of look at things real quick from the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of trying to buy these Topps Chrome basketball Wemby prints. Just a real generic overview, Paul. We would probably recommend them waiting to purchase any of these for several months, right? Just on account of how pricing will likely drastically fall over the course of time.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one valid strategy for sure. And that's definitely the strategy that I've followed and recommended in the past, right? Because we always see prices at their very, very highest when cards first hit the market. So it is a very, very risky recipe for disaster in terms of actually trying to make money flipping sports cards and investing in sports cards. But what I've realized recently is like, if you're fast enough and you have the capital, you can actually capitalize on that initial hype if you are able to. The riskiest thing is to buy a single, though. It's just as risky to, in that initial launch phase where the prices are just astronomical. I would say it's almost as risky to rip a box of wax or try to buy into a break and win in a break, because you could get left holding the bag, but you're not going to pay as much if you buy into a break. And so you're not going to risk as much money. You're going to spend a crap ton of money trying to buy the single. So ultimately, I think you can be crafty. You can figure out a way to get the cards and in a fast manner and flip them quickly because of the demand. but I think you're right. It's threading the needle. That's way too risky for me. And so that's why I typically fade and just wait until the market settles and then try to figure out where the deals are from there.
Yeah, it's almost hysteria when these cards first drop, right? I think it's just really tough to put a good pinpoint on where the market's at in terms of trying to, like you're saying, threading the needle there. I think it just adds too many layers where you've got to be right about a lot of things for that play to pan out. So good breakdown there. Looking forward to seeing how Wemby's market moves and finding new ways to make money. Like you said, we're going to be running things through the formula and keeping everyone posted with what we do here back. More news in the hobby real quick. Marvin Harrison Jr. declines to sign his NFLPA. So far, the article reads as such. Harrison has yet to sign the NFLPA licensing agreement. That means his jersey won't be available, and he won't be in the Madden game until he signs. If he signs, he might not sign. He might retain his full rights without joining the herd. Maybe he'll design and sell his own jersey. Maybe he'll do his own deal with EA to appear in the Madden game. Paul, they're talking a lot about jerseys and Madden and video games. We don't necessarily care about that so much. What we do care about is what this means for his card market if he does decline to sign and what that's going to look like moving forward. My initial thought was that I was curious to see what you thought in terms of his current cards that are out, in terms, especially autos, and what his prices could do if he doesn't sign here and we don't see any autos from Marvin Harrison Jr., or just your overall thoughts on what this can do to his card market.
Yeah, I'll go backwards there on this. I think the last question's a great one, and this is a good topic. So I do think that, this definitely doesn't hurt his Bowman Chrome first prospect autos. It definitely doesn't hurt. It's reminiscent of like Bryce Young's instant Panini draft night autos in his Panthers uniform, Panthers branding before. That was right before Bryce Young signed, I believe, as Fanatics exclusive deal. And then there was this news that he's not going to have any Donruss, Prism, etc. NT autos, so that the price of that Panini instant draft night auto definitely went up. And so you could see the same effect with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think if I were holding a Marvin Harrison Jr. Bowman Chrome first auto right now, I'd be feeling pretty darn good about it, because for the foreseeable future, it does look like there's a chance that this could be a more desirable card because of this news. And we talked about these cards having a runway anyway, really through September. And so now I think that there could be a little bit more hype around this card. It certainly doesn't hurt. I mean, I know some of our one-on-one strategist people are holding these cards, and I feel good for them, because I think that eventually they're going to make a profit on these cards when they do sell them. I'm not ready to sit here and say that Bowman Chrome first prospect auto is going to end up being like Marvin Harrison Jr.'s Grail card, right? Because he could do something. Well, we just saw, Wemby in the Fanatics situation. He could just basically do kind of what you said, which is sell his own name, image, and likeness and capitalize on much more money than he would have through the PA deal. I think this is very compelling from a sports business standpoint. I think that it's interesting to think about, college athletes who are able to sell their own name, image, and likeness, just kind of continuing to want to do that. It makes me laugh kind of thinking about QB Eagles from Tecmo Super Bowl back in the day. That was what I played growing up as a kid religiously. So it was definitely way before Madden. I would call that like the pre-Madden game was Tecmo Super Bowl and Tecmo Bowl, but they had QB Eagles because Randall Cunningham did not sign his NFLPA contract, or he was not under contract when that game was made, and then he later signed his contract. So taking it way, way back for some of you guys. But I think this is cool. I mean, more power to Marvin Harrison Jr. I like to see kind of the business of sports change a little bit. I think it's fun to talk about from a card standpoint. I do think that, if for those of you holding the Marvin Harrison Jr. Bowman Chrome first prospect autos right now, I mean, you got a little bit more clout behind him.
Yeah, I think that's a good breakdown. I think one of my thoughts here was in terms of people that are holding these prints right now. I love that you mentioned that you feel good about people that are holding them. I think that's a good point. And I also think, though, that you need to consider the fact that, one, in this article, is they use the term yet a lot, right? So there is a chance that he could still sign, go in different directions, give his rights and licensing to different areas. So because of this, Paul, I think that it might be smart to still kind of, if you see a player performance spike for one of these cards that you're holding a Marvin Harrison Jr., whether it be in the preseason or the first couple weeks of the regular season, before anything else has happened in terms of this specific news and we get any additional feedback, I think it would be probably wise to try to move it if you're in the green, right? Just so that you don't have to add additional risk of if he does sign, that card quickly falls off when we do get the prints that come out.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think still try to move it, because it just, anytime that you're holding something that you meant to sell anyway, and that was the play, and now all of a sudden, for whatever reason, whatever news, it has a little bit more additional desirability. I think it's smart to move it. So yeah, definitely. I think we're on the same page there.
We'll definitely stay tuned to any updates from Marvin Harrison Jr. and his likeness moving forward. But we do have more news to share with you guys, some of that being Panini WNBA. First, Panini has released, or is releasing, first WNBA trading cards featuring Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Per them, cards in the specific set are available until Tuesday, May 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern, or while supplies last, for numbered variations. Prices range from $9.99 and up, depending on variation, and cards are shipped within 15 to 20 business days after ordering. The ordering window expires. Paul, I know you've got some thoughts about what this is going to mean for the hobby. Obviously, WNBA has been growing a lot as of late with an electric March Madness for them. Some top players kind of getting drafted as of late, and the season starts in just a couple of weeks. So a lot of exciting stuff happening for the WNBA. I'd love to get your thoughts on what this means for the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, good for the WNBA, man. I was a WNBA PR director from 2002 to 2004, and nobody really cared about the WNBA back then. I had to grind to get media coverage back then. We had to have all these human interest pieces. Now it's just all about the play on the court, which is awesome. That's really what it should be about. Caitlin Clark, the hype is real. I think there is a clear-cut play for me behind these, and it's not that much different than what we've said in the past. I did want to talk about it today because I do know that our audience is probably chomping at the bit to hear my take at, these Panini instant cards. I know that there's been a lot of Topps Now releases around the NFL draft, around the WNBA draft. There's, Panini's got the licensing for the WNBA. Caitlin Clark is now Panini exclusive, even though she did sign for Fanatics in the past. Angel Reese is Panini exclusive for autos. The Caitlin Clark low serial numbered autos sold out right away for this release, and they were expensive. And then there's non-auto serial numbered variations as well. There was only one left when I checked the website yesterday, and I believe they had only been out for just a few hours when I checked the website, and Topps.com, that is. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with these are online only releases. So you go to Topps.com for Topps Now, you go to PaniniAmerica.net for these WNBA licensed releases. So for these, I said Topps.com a second ago. I meant when I went to PaniniAmerica.net yesterday, the only Caitlin Clark cards other than the base cards available were the serial numbered out of 10, and they were $900 each. And my thought was, that's way too high to buy in Caitlin Clark card to try to flip it and make money, because much like this Wemby release for Fanatics, Panini is going to have many more Caitlin Clark releases, and they're going to have many. Now that she's a Panini exclusive signer as well, there's going to be a ridiculous amount more Caitlin Clark autographs, Caitlin Clark cards beyond that. Like, there's going to be so many additional Panini instant when she's in her Indiana Fever uniform. Like, they're going to do stuff when she's at media day. There's going to do stuff when she's in the preseason for WNBA, and no one's ever cared about the WNBA preseason. There's going to be like tons more Caitlin Clark Panini instant releases. And so I think that the $900 for an out of 10, that price is going to drop because there's going to be more of them coming out. I think that the price of these base cards are going to drop very quickly. And they're unlike Topps Now. For Panini America, when you buy a base only release, you don't have a chance at any parallels. For Topps Now, they do randomly insert parallels. So you've probably heard us say in the past, you can buy these types of cards and get lucky with a parallel. Not for Caitlin Clark and for the Angel Reese WNBA draft class release that we're talking about today. So the play here really, Connor, is only to buy these Panini Instant Caitlin Clarks only. I would fade all the other players. I don't think any of the other players are going to hold a candle to the value of Caitlin Clark. I do think it's feasible based on the records that she's broken, not only on the court, but just in the ratings. I do think it's feasible that a PSA 10 of this card that we're talking about, the Panini Instant #1 draft night where she's holding up her Indiana Fever jersey, could sell for $50 or more. I think it could sell for $50 or more consistently into the future because of who she is, because of what this card is, and because it would be a PSA 10. So the play here, because if you buy 25 of these, it takes the price down to like under $4 per card. Now you're in an economic situation with this play that you're getting, because here's the thing, like, it's hard to go buy 25 of any, CJ Stroud base or, Anthony Richardson base, or name the player. It's hard to go buy any of their base rookie cards from any set, 25 at a time for under $4, and know that in the bulk shipping, and know that there's a good chance at a gem. Like, that's almost impossible. So the only reason why this play makes sense is because it's Caitlin Clark. It's her first Panini WNBA licensed rookie card. It's more than that. It's under $4 per card, bulk shipping, good chance at a gem. So when you get these cards, I ordered 25 of them. I ordered 25 of them yesterday, and you still have until May 7th, I believe. So if you're listening today on May 1st, you still have about 6 more days to get these cards. Now, the print run's going to be like 30,000. Okay. So this is not going to be a rare card, but you still have the opportunity to get these cards as soon as you get them back from Panini. I wouldn't even look at them. I would just immediately put them in a bulk PSA submission. And then you got to include a note on there that says, break the seal, PSA, just break the seal, grade these Fockers, get them back to me as quickly as possible in the bulk grading submission. And then as soon as you get them back, you list them in 10-day auctions from like a Wednesday through a Sunday or whatever, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time, ending at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Hope they sell for $50, and that's your profit margin. That's the play. So I think I got to be very, very specific with why this type of play works. I am not saying to go out and buy a bunch of different kinds of Tops Now and PaniniAmerica.net print on demand cards for Caitlin Clark. I'm saying I think this one has a play. And more than that, I'm saying like there's going to be more of them. We saw it with Wemby, with Panini Instant. Like there was a ridiculous amount of Wemby Panini Instants. There's a ridiculous amount of Connor Bedard Tops Now rookie stickers. Okay, you had to be very, very fast on each of those plays to profit. So I think it's that is the play. I mean, it says cards shipped within 15 to 20 business days after the ordering window expires. That means we should all expect to get our cards during the last week of May. By Memorial Day, you should have your cards. And then literally the next day, they should be in the mailbox to PSA from all of you guys. That's it.
Yeah, I good stuff, Paul. I think with a lot of these type of plays, timeliness is always a very important factor. So good job breaking that down. And something else I like in terms of timeliness of this is that by the time you do get these back from PSA, you're probably going to be at a spot where it's kind of the WNBA season starts on May 14th. So you could have some residual kind of price spikes just from how well she's playing by the time you get these back. So love the idea of getting them, send them to PSA immediately and getting them listed on the market right when you get them back. Of course, stay tuned for any more additional info on Caitlin Clark. As additional releases come out for her, we will be sure to keep you guys posted on what the good and not so good plays would be there. Paul, we do have one more piece of news to break down for today, and that comes from Whatnot. So Whatnot releases new features for breakers as of this morning. They said every second a card is sold on Whatnot, and many of these cards are sold through breaks. Breaks is a group buying activity in which a seller purchases a box or pack of cards and then invites others to purchase spots in the box, with each spot representing a specific portion of the cards being open. Breaks have become a fun, engaging, and more equitable way for collectors to gain a piece of a box rather than buying a whole box for themselves. With our new Breaks feature currently in beta, it delivers a smoother, more intuitive, and fun way to connect with your audience and sell out those break spots faster than ever. Then they go on to list a bunch of cool features in which they have improved and added to their breaking system that will allow both sellers sellers and those entering the breaks to have a more easy user interface and better experience on their website. Paul, I actually thought this news was really cool. You know, we've talked a lot about how there's space in the hobby for everyone. And even though we don't necessarily like entering breaks or ripping wax, we prefer singles. I still thought this was good for the hobby and would help it grow. And we've mentioned kind of breaks being a good way for people to have fun and entertainment. So I thought this was good news overall, and I'm excited just because the hobby continues to grow in a positive direction. But what was your thoughts when you saw this news?
It dropped today, so I was excited that we had a show today so that we could talk about it because it's very timely. I think I've become a bigger and bigger fan of Whatnot just because they've got a very, very big audience. I mean, a large portion of the hobby is on Whatnot, and you got to respect that. And I've had a good experience as a seller on Whatnot. It's not my favorite platform to sell on, but that's just kind of personal preference. eBay is my favorite platform, but that's just because it doesn't take up as much of your time. Like to sell on Whatnot, it really takes up a lot of your time. But I think that with their auctions feature that we've talked about on recent shows, that is a plus to using Whatnot. And I think that this improved user experience is going to be big. I mean, I would like for our audience to drop a comment below, give us some feedback on how you feel from a person buying into breaks standpoint for this new functionality that just launched today. I'd love to hear from some breakers as to whether or not they feel like it's like this improvement really makes a big difference. I think it will, because I think any user experience improvement to the usability for not only the seller, but also in particular the buyer, being able to easily pick your team in PYT breaks, things like that. That should definitely help. So, I'm not someone that buys into breaks very often, and I'm not a breaker, but I do think that with Whatnot continuously improving their platform, it is something that I will probably try more just to become more educated on it. Like you might even see me do a break, Connor. You might even see me do some of these auctions on Whatnot, because I think that there's a place for Whatnot in the hobby. And I know that Fanatics Live is affiliated with like the main manufacturer of all of the cards now. So Whatnot definitely has some big competition. I think if Whatnot can continuously innovate and improve their platform, there's still going to be a place for them in the hobby, and they could still be one of the top dogs. Certainly, if you want $15 for free on Whatnot and you have not signed up there yet, definitely sign up through this link. Go to whatnot.sportscardstrategy.com. So get $15 on Whatnot by signing up through whatnot.sportscardstrategy.com. I know many of you have like Loop credits and Fanatics Live credits from your PSA memberships and things like that. So we'll probably be asking our audience some more questions in the future about which platform they like the best and why you're using platforms. Of course, my last word on this kind of, Connor, is like we always say, breaking is not really a valuable sports card strategy. Obviously, when you've got those credits and you've got that money there, that helps. So, try to dip your foot in the water. Just be careful. I'm always going to be more of a singles guy myself. So I'm not like, as excited about increased breaking features from Whatnot, but I do want to give them props. I think it's something that I would love our audience's take on.
Yeah, good stuff there. Definitely, like you said, Paul, when Paul does decide, if he does, to try to use it, we're going to give you guys our feedback on the interface and where there are pros and cons to the website. I think overall, anytime that we see platforms in the hobby trying to evolve and improve, it's always going to be a good thing there. But that's going to wrap up, our Why Do We Care for the day. Covered a handful of different news topics. Now, Paul, it is time to roll into the top 5 cards to buy pre-graded and flip for profits. I'm excited for today's list because I think everything that I chose was pretty conservative in terms of strategy. So I think there could potentially be even more upside than I have listed. which is exciting. So the theme of today is going where they ain't with a sell marker. And formula approved. We've talked about our strategies, guidelines, and plays over the last several months, Paul. And now with the formula, we have a way to kind of combine the two to give us one reasonable inclination to think about timing the market properly. And we also have data-driven information that's going to help back that up. So starting off with our number 5 pick for today, Jahmyr Gibbs, his 2023 Prism base number 331 in PSA 10. This is a pop of just 114. Buy-in price for this card, Paul, is $35. I took the average of the last 3 sales there. The target sales price, I have it just $60. Although this card did sell at $80 and above a handful of times. I think there's low demand right now for maybe Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, it's the off season. We're going to have an increased role from Jahmyr next season. The Lions are a top rising team. So I believe this is a reasonable target sales price for Jahmyr, trying to get this Prism base in PSA 10 to $60. So based on using this data, Paul, you would need to purchase 38 of these cards, which obviously would be extremely difficult with a pop count of 114. But remember, Paul, nearly all of these plays are designed to give you options to sprinkle into your plays. So you need to buy 38 of these at an average cost of $35 to turn a $500 net profit off of $1,300, which is a return on investment of 37%. So while, yes, it'd be very difficult to pick up 38 of these, an ROI of 37% is something we feel good about. Paul, I like this play because Jahmyr is kind of under the radar right now in terms of talent. Obviously, it is the NFL offseason and NFL card buying season for us. You've got the NFL playoffs occurring right now, meaning that attention is in that direction, especially with how electric these games have been. So a lot of things kind of taking attention away from football. Another case of going where they ain't. Also, you had the NFL draft, so a lot of eyes are on these new rookies, not necessarily second-year guys or new or rising guys, at least until we get to the preseason. So you have a clear marker, sell marker ahead, which would be the NFL hype cycle. And I think buying Jahmyr Gibbs right now, if you can find him at $30, his Prism base and PSA 10 is a good option.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're taking all of the grading out of the equation here. You're just getting the PSA 10, obviously, on this list. Only a pop 114. If you can get it for $35, I do think this is a card that will return close to the 37% ROI that the formula tells us that it will, just because there's still a lot of hype around the 2023 NFL rookie class. And I think that the hype typically lasts for a couple of years. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy that I would definitely look to sell in August or early September, because I think there's going to be a lot of hype around the Lions. They've got a lot of momentum there in Detroit right now, and Jahmyr is an electric player. So one thing I will note here that the hype rise of the NFL season might not be what returns the 37% ROI. It might, that very well, if you could buy in at $35, I do think you would profit, but I don't know that you would get the 37% ROI unless you wait to list after a big performance for Jahmyr Gibbs. And with a running back, you do always risk injury, usually even more so than some other positions in the NFL. I still like it though. I think like everything lines up. Detroit, Gibbs, hype around going into his second year. I think that injury would be the only thing I would be concerned about with this. Otherwise, I think you're holding until a performance spike, and you're flipping it during. If you buy in at the $35 price point, you're selling on a performance spike week early on in the 2024 NFL season. That would be my play with this card.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. I think obviously with skill position guys, we've talked about it for several months now that, and you probably even longer, that the injury is always a risk for these guys. They just have a higher increased injury rate, shorter careers in terms of tenure, median there. So good point to point out. I think that's probably why he isn't higher up on this list and sits in the 5 slot. But definitely, if you're interested in buying this card, something that you do need to consider when purchasing it, even though there is a pretty solid return on investment, that there is a little bit of risk there. Moving along, we're going to transition over to some basketball, someone that has been eliminated now. It's the 2016 Prism Silver number 131 PSA 10 of Brandon Ingram of the Pelicans. This is a pop count of 201. I have a buy-in price listed at $100. If you actually look at the last sale of this card, it was just $61, but most of the prior sales kind of sit in the $100 to $115 range. So I felt that $100 was a relatively conservative price, especially when you consider the fact that Brandon Ingram is not going to be in the news cycle for the coming weeks/months. For the target sales price, I took $172. That's the number we want this card to get to, which is the average cost of transaction between August and September. With the NBA regular season starting in October, I felt like this was a good range of time to look at increased hype cycle pricing based on the season starting in the near future. So $172 was the average cost of transactions for this card between August and September. Based on the data that I'm using above, you would need to purchase 13 of these cards, which obviously it's a pop 201, but 13 could still possibly happen at an average cost of $100 to turn a $1,330 investment into $500 of net profit, which is a return on investment of 38%. Paul, with the Pelicans getting swept by the Oklahoma City Thunder and Ingram playing mediocre at best kind of throughout that series, I don't think anyone's going to be looking in his direction for the coming weeks, especially with how Lou Dort absolutely locked him up, which makes this card, I think, an interesting buying proposition now, especially with the formula kind of backing up my thoughts.
I think unlike Gibbs base Prism PSA 10, that could have a very, very low floor because it's a base card and the pop count will continue to rise. I think that this Ingram card is actually a card that should continuously have a high floor because it is a shorter print run from 2016. It's a silver, and I know that that kind of goes hand in hand because pre-2018, every rookie Prism was a silver, but it's still in the shorter print run category. So it's still it's not a base. It's still a silver. PSA 10, pop 201, that's not going to rise. So if you can get this card for $100, Connor, I mean, I think you're looking at worst case scenario getting out of it for around $100. Best case scenario, the Pelicans put it all together. And I mean, you got to believe, I mean, Willie Green's a good coach, right? I mean, unless I'm missing something, he's a pretty good coach, I think. I think they've got a great front office there. They're going to keep adding talent. They have some of the best young talent in the league, and they're like one of the deepest teams in the league. I mean, when Zion and Ingram aren't playing and Valanciunas isn't even playing, they've still got playmakers out on the court. Trey Murphy III, Larry Nance Jr. They still got Jose Alvarado. They've got CJ McCollum. I mean, this whole team is stacked, and Ingram is like the Kevin Durant ceiling. So I think that you could have this big three that just hasn't materialized yet, but that's already on the same team, and Ingram, Zion, and McCollum. And then you've still got all those other guys around them. I think that this card is kind of the perfect card for someone looking to prospect in the NBA right now. And I don't want to call it like a buy low, sell high, easy flip. It's more of an investment where it's the formula telling us if you can get this card for $100, you're probably not going to sell it for less than $100. This could go up. You've got a target sale price on it conservatively of $172. I mean, if the Pelicans put everything together, this could easily triple. So I think, and I think, let me define that for a second. Like, let's say the Pelicans were to have beat the Thunder and Ingram would have averaged 30 in the series, which could happen in a future season. The Pelicans get into the second or third round, second round or conference finals. And now all of a sudden, there's high interest in this very, very low pop card. So if you can get it at the $100 buy-in price per the formula, I think it's a great call.
Love it. Yep. Moving right along, we'll look at our number 3 slot for today. And when I say the name, you guys are not necessarily going to think going where they ain't, but let me get there. We're looking at Ronald Acuna Jr., his 2017 Bowman Draft Chrome Refractor in PSA 10, which has a pop count of 1375, meaning it's fairly accessible. Buy-in price for this card is $65. That's based on several data points of recent sales data for this specific print. Target sales price, I put $135, which is the average cost of August and September transactions for this card, which, Paul, I believe is pretty similar to when postseason hype will be building. So based on the data that I have used above of a buy-in price of $65 and a target sales price of $135, you need to purchase just 12 of these cards out of a pop count of 1375 at an average cost of $65. to turn a $755 upfront investment into $500 of net profit, which is a return on investment of 66%. Paul, I mentioned that hang tight with me. You might be thinking, I thought this was a go where they ain't list. How is the best player on a top MLB team a go where they ain't pick? Well, technically, Acuna's kind of not the top guy on their team right now. He's currently hitting for his lowest batting average since 2020. He's hitting 255 right now and has just 1 home run total this season. His market is also down nearly 12% across the board for secondary market transactions over the last 30 days. So Acuna's actually kind of flying under the radar right now, and it's probably based on his poor play. But I think if you can buy this card for $65, a return on investment of 66% is definitely possible, and that makes now the time to pick up Acuna. Paul, you also have a handful of sell markers for Acuna ahead, whether it be performance-based spikes, MLB playoff hype, or even a deep Braves playoff push if you're wanting to take on a bit more risk with hopes of even more upside. I really like this Acuna print, especially with where it's selling for right now in terms of pricing.
Anytime you can get a bona fide superstar that's still in their early 20s as a go where they ain't, and I agree with your rationale as to why he is. I mean, going where they ain't can take on a couple different definitions, right? And I think you nailed one of them, which is, he's not playing the best right now. He's underperforming where we expect him to perform, but he's still Ronald Acuna Jr. And if you can get the buy-in price of $65, you can't argue with that ROI, 66%. So again, and this is a Pop 1375 card. I like that it's a Bowman Draft Refractor. Obviously like that it's a PSA 10. Typically our buy, graded, and flip are PSA 10s. They always don't need to be, but it is good that they are most of the time because makes them the most desirable with the highest upside. So I think bona fide superstar, he is going to sell. So again, to me, this is even safer than the Ingram, where, the Ingram, I don't think you would lose money. I definitely know you wouldn't lose money on this Acuna Jr. card. And it is his first Bowman refractor. So Bowman Chrome refractor. So I like it. And again, I just want to quickly jump in here and just kind of remind everybody and let everybody know who's new. These are per the formula. So, the process for this is, yes, we use our ideas and our predictions to start with, right? Like we start with our principles, our guidelines, which look like things like, buy the superstar, buy the best player on a team, buy someone that no one else is thinking about, buy them when they're outside of the media cycle and all of those things. Buy only with a selling marker in mind, all these different things, right? We take all of those guidelines, but then we built this formula not too long ago, just a couple of weeks ago. We built it and we started running all of our tried and true principle based theories through the formula. And then the math in the formula tells us what's actually going to give us the highest ROI. So you can say things like, I think I would rather buy Zion right now over Brandon Ingram, or I would rather buy so-and-so over Ronald Acuna, or I would rather buy Hendon Hooker over Jahmyr Gibbs. That's all fine and dandy, but what you're doing there is you're leaving out the ROI of the math of what the buy-in point and the projected sale point is for real based on historical data of a particular card. So you're just leaving out that math. And so if you want to leave out that math, that's fine. But what you're doing is you're adding one more layer of risk in. And so what we feel like we've done with the formula, especially for the already graded, which is what we're talking about on today's show, is we're just adding one more layer of risk mitigation. And really the way that I frame that up is prioritization, because we could go buy any number of cards out there. I want one more way of helping me prioritize what to buy. So I think this list so far is spot on through the formula. What do we got next, Connor?
Up next, we're going to switch over again to basketball. We're going to look at Ja Morant's, his 2019 Chronicles Panini, number 116 in PSA 10. Paul, this is a card I'm 99, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm like 99% sure we've talked about in the past several months as something that's been a volatile card. And the data actually does reflect that. It's a pop count of 25, 45, so relatively easy to obtain. Buy-in price, I used $145 for the formula here, which is an average of the last 3 sales for this card and very close to recent comps as well. Target sales price, I have $262. And while, $120 more than the buy-in price might seem like I'm being a little aggressive here, this is actually the average sales cost during the NBA hype cycle, being August and September of 2023. And that's across 160 different sales. So based on this data, you would need to purchase just 8 of these 2019 Chronicles Panini number 116 PSA 10s cards at an average cost of $145 to turn a $500 profit of $1,122 invested, which is a return on investment of 45%. Paul, I really like this play because with Ja being suspended and missing a handful of time last season before coming back and immediately being sidelined for the season with injury, I don't think very many people are talking about him right now, especially as a top player. It was a bad year for the Grizzlies. Obviously, they're not in the playoffs. I think it's a great time to buy Ja Morant in general. And man, the formula really likes this card, especially adding in that it's a pop count 25-45 and accessible. I really do believe. And I mentioned 160 sales, between August and September that average out to $262. That's a lot of data. And I love seeing a lot of data because it makes me more confident in the target sales price that we're picking. So I feel really good about this number 2 card, and it almost snuck into number 1.
I love it. Connor, do you know this is known in the hobby as the Young Dolph card? Did you know that? It's so funny that the Young Dolph card through the formula is number 2 right now on our list. That's phenomenal. I mean, I agree with everything you just said. This is why I love the formula, because I love Ja. Like I would hypothesize that Ja would be a good buy right now because, again, superstar, down in value, hasn't really, like, he flashed obviously when he came back from his suspension before he injured his shoulder. Everybody got just excited enough about him to realize that he's still legit, but then he went down, which then caused his market to go down again. Now no one's thinking about him. He's not on the Olympic team, obviously. So there's really not going to be anything to build up the Ja hype until he gets on the court again. So I think we have a pretty long buying window for Ja cards. And the fact that he's number 2 right now on already graded and flip per the formula, and it's the Young Dolph card, a card that the hobby has been proven to really, really gravitate to because of the young rapper there in the background, which I just think is amusing. But the market loves it. The market already loves this card. It has historical love for this card. There's historical data behind it for the target sales price. And you're looking at a pretty massive ROI here. If you can get in at the $145 mark, seems like a pretty safe 45% ROI. So I'm a fan.
Love it. Yeah, thanks for the feedback. I really like this pick. And like I mentioned, it almost snuck into number 1. And number 1 is actually another basketball play in a card that we definitely would not be recommending if it weren't for the formula. We're looking at his De'Aaron Fox's 2017 Optic Shock, number 196 in PSA 10, which has a pop count of 424. Paul, the last sale for this card was just $22, but to be conservative, I used an average cost of $30, which is the average cost across the last 3 sales for this card. Then I decided to look at Fox's 365-day average pricing for his 2017 Optic Shock. We see that the card then sold based on the 365-day average at $75 across 61 transactions. I felt like this was a safe number to use as a target sales price because this accounts for off-season, hype cycles, performance-based cycles, downtimes, et cetera. And I think 61 transactions is a really solid baseline. So basically you get kind of the ebbs and flows. And I think that anytime you can look at a 365-day average that has a lot of sales transactions and a lot of data to look at, you can assume that it will get back near that number that it averages, right? So I feel like this number was conservative because we'd probably be looking to sell this during the NBA hype cycle or even the playoffs if you're willing to hold on to cash flow for longer. And the prices could be much higher during times where NBA anticipation and hype is high. So based on the numbers that I used here, Paul, again, that's $30 average cost and a sales cost of $75. Based on using this data, you need to purchase 17 of these cards, which could be slightly difficult with a 424 pop count, but potentially doable at an average cost of $30 for a total entry fee of $510. If you wanted to turn a $500 net profit, nearly a 100% return on investment for this option, Paul. I think with the Kings out of the playoffs, no one's really thinking about De'Aaron Fox right now. which makes this a really exciting option, especially because they're clearly a good team that's been building in the last couple of years in terms of culture and adding good players to their roster. I think the sell marker is clear here. The sell markers can be clear here depending on what your cash flow goals are and how much risk you're willing to take on, either the NBA hype cycle or waiting until the playoffs next season. But number one, De'Aaron Fox's 2017 Optic Shock, number 196 in PSA 10.
When you go to the formula-based rankings at nooffseason.com and you click on the already graded tab and you click on this card, it takes you to his player profile and you'll see this card there. And when you click it, it's going to take you to eBay listings. And there are listings available for this card. There is an auction. It's a new listing. There's 5 days left, but it starts at $20. And the target cost for this is what, right around $35? Is that where you got it at? Last sale, $22, $30. Yeah. So if you can get this, there is room to go ahead and actually win this card for the $30 price. Now, 5 days left in an auction. It could get driven up quite a bit at the last minute. Make sure that you're following the right card. We're linking to the Optic Shock. There are some listings that are just the base optic. There are some listings that are not PSA 10. There are some listings that happen to be the Optic Hollow, which could be another great card. But the one we ran through the formula that we're talking about is the 2017 De'Aaron Fox Optic Shock PSA 10. With the rated rookie logo, of course, and there are some available for the target price. So that's what I love about what we're doing at nooffseason.com. Just, we know that our audience loves to pontificate and have fun and have their own individual thoughts. That's why we built the formula calculator, so you can go in and see what your own thoughts, how they line up based on our formula. But if you want to just go ahead and check, for me, I built this for myself because I'm trying to make a living flipping sports cards, and I'm doing pretty okay at it so far, but I want to get better. So I want to run as many cards through this formula as I possibly can, so that I can just go ahead and make it easy. Just go click on the projected ROI with the highest ROI projected per card. Click on it, go and try to bid on and win cards at that level. So that's what we're doing at nooffseason.com. Great work on the top 5 today, Connor. Let's go through and just kind of talk to some of the people in the live chat that have been participating during today's episode. We appreciate you. And of course, drop a comment below at youtube.com/Paul Hickey, or join the Discord by going to sportscardstrategy.com if you want to get in on that. That's all for you, the audience. Thanks to Ziggy No, who's given a lot of great information in today's episode in the live chat. He's talking about breaks. He says, I buy most of my breaks on Facebook at fractions of the price. Yesterday, a break of 20 blasters for all Spurs was only $130. That's $6.50 per box. Great risk reward versus shill breaks on whatnot. So Ziggy's talking a lot from his own experience, which is very, very valuable. He mentioned in the live chat that he's not necessarily trusting the pricing on whatnot in terms of potential shills. He's got a lot of great experience. So definitely appreciate that. Any questions that you want answered, guys, definitely the best way to do that is to go to nooffseason.com/ask. Connor and I are going to knock it out of the park for you. Brendan Lindgren, W of the day is Maxey going Kobe on the Knicks last night so that I can get out of my basketball cards as a whole, out of Maxey and basketball as a whole. I don't understand the basketball market. Well, Brendan, you did quite well, actually, because Tyrese Maxey's been the biggest conundrum for me to profit on. But Connor, as you know, his prices are up, and the Prism Silver is up. So stay tuned, guys, for a potential sell alert on that coming soon. Text Sports Cards to 1-833-992-5727 to get those sell alerts. Text Sports Cards to 1-833-992-5727. George Schur in the house. Joel Kaplan bringing it strong today in the live chat. Appreciate you. And our guy, Bo Belcher. We appreciate everyone. Connor, anything else to add today before we hit him with some ad reads and hit him with the outro?
Just want to say real quick that we are rolling out weekly 1K budget builders where we're kind of piecing together results from the formula. The first one is live that was posted late last night, but they're going to be coming on a weekly basis. So as you guys are looking to piece together, whether it be submissions or if you want to buy graded and flip that way, we're going to have some interesting options and some of our top picks on a weekly basis coming at you guys. So be sure to check out those articles at nooffseason.com.
I am off to my mailbox to see what eBay delivered to me for mail day. But first, are you ready to start grading your cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today. Get a free 30-day trial today at nooffseason.com to learn our guidelines, strategies, and plays. And get our formula-based sports card rankings to help you make money flipping sports cards to fund your PC and other things in your life. And don't forget about Sports Card School. Sports Card School is a safe place for noobs, advanced flippers, and high rollers alike to learn how to navigate the hobby and ultimately build a collection that increases in value. That's what we want. Go to sportscardschool.com. Everyone, let's continue to make money flipping those sports cards during the NBA playoffs. Have a great day. Talk to you all soon. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. To connect with us further, please subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Please also give us a follow on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy and on X at No Off Season Card. We also have a Discord that you could join at sportscardstrategy.com. Everyone, I'm Paul Hickey. For the rest of us here at nooffseason.com, have a great day. We'll see you again soon.